Okay, so you've given us something truly substantial to sink our teeth into. Here, John Milton's Paradise Lost.
It's definitely a big one, a literary Everest, as you say.
Right. And for this deep dive, we're really aiming to chart some of its most compelling peaks and valleys.
Exactly.
Think of it as like your personalized expedition through this epic. We want to pull out those moments, those ideas that still spark so much debate, centuries later.
Absolutely, because Paradise Lost is, it's vast, it's intricate, packed with powerful imagery, profound questions. It can feel a bit daunting.
For sure.
So a goal here is just to navigate through it a bit, highlight what makes it so enduring, those fundamental themes, those really memorable scenes that tap into something, well, deeply human.
Okay, so where do we even begin? How do we start unpacking a universe this vast? It feels kind of natural to start at the beginning of the fallen angel's journey, like right after the rebellion.
That makes sense. Yeah. Milton throws us straight into this pretty terrifying vision of hell.
And it's not just darkness, is it? It's darkness visible.
Mm-hmm.
What does that image, that paradoxical phrase, even tell us about their state?
Well, what's striking about darkness visible, is that sense of a perpetual, inescapable awareness of their torment.
Ah, right.
It's not just oblivion like pure darkness would be. It's a state where even the absence of light has this palpable, agonizing presence. It immediately sets up hell as, well, not just a place, but a state of mind, too.
A consciousness burdened by what they did, by what they lost.
Exactly. It's the total opposite of heaven's radiant clarity. It's a realm where even sight brings no comfort, no solace.
And right there, in this dungeon horrible, we meet Satan. And what's so compelling, I think, is that even after this total defeat, his spirit seems, well, unbroken.
Right. He says his mind and spirit remain invincible.
Yeah. Why do you think Milton portrayed his antagonist with such initial resilience? What's that about? Defiance itself.
That resilience is a huge part of why Satan is so captivating, isn't it? Controversial, obviously, but captivating.
Definitely.
Perhaps Milton is digging into the seductive power of sheer will, that refusal to yield even when you're facing absolute power. It kind of touches on something in us, I think, that maybe admires that unwavering resolve, even if it's for a lost cause.
Makes sense. It makes him complex, not just, pure evil.
Exactly. And it sets the stage for his ongoing opposition. He immediately steps up as leader, refusing to accept defeat, determined to keep fighting, just on different terms now. So
we hear these different strategies. Moloch is all for, like, renewed war, right?
Yeah.
Fiery stuff.
Just go for it again.
Yeah.
Raw aggression.
But then Belial argues for, what is it? Accepting things. Miserable acceptance.
Sort of. Ignoble ease, he calls it. It sounds passive, but maybe it hints at that temptation of learned helplessness, Just avoiding more pain, even if it means stagnation.
And Mammon. He has a different idea altogether.
Right. Mammon wants to build their own kingdom, right there in hell. Find value there, take pride in it even.
Wow.
It suggests that human tendency may be to rationalize, to adapt, even in a twisted way, to avoid facing the full reality of what they've lost.
What do all these different views tell us about, like, the state of rebellion itself? It seems fractured.
Oh, completely. It's a brilliant depiction of how divisions pop up after a massive failure. You've got the vengeful urge, the desire to just give up, and this weird attempt to make the best of a terrible situation. It shows they aren't monolithic.
And it's during this debate, isn't it, that the idea of Earth, of humankind, comes up as a new target for Satan.
Exactly. It's like a strategic pivot.
How does that shift happen? From wanting to attack heaven again to deciding to go after this new creation?
Well, direct assault on heaven, that failed spectacularly.
Right.
So Satan, ever the strategist, looks for another way in, a flank attack, basically. This new creation, humankind, loved by God. It's an opportunity to hit God indirectly.
Through his creation.
Precisely. It's born out of spite, maybe envy, but it's also a cunning redirection of his rebellious energy. Corrupt humanity, undermine God's big plan, inflict pain that way. It's calculated. Displaced aggression.
So, okay, new target acquired. Satan then takes this incredible journey out of hell towards paradise through that chaotic Great Gulf.
Yeah, Milton's description of that journey.
Wow.
Guided by chaos itself.
What's the significance of that?
Well, Milton uses it to really emphasize the sheer difficulty, the determination involved in Satan's mission. Chaos isn't just empty space, it's personified. It's this primordial, formless void, total disorder, elements at war.
Intending.
Satan getting through that, it underscores his immense will, maybe even a kind of perverse heroism, to push through that chaos for his goal. It shows his unwavering focus, however twisted it is.
And when he finally gets near the created world, he sees the celestial sphere, the sun's brightness, and then he runs into the angel Uriel.
Right, the region of the sun.
And it's fascinating how Satan, this fallen archangel, manages to trick even Uriel, a being of light. How does he pull that off? What kind of manipulation is he using?
He's a master manipulator here. He uses disguise, obviously, but also feigned innocence. He pretends to be this curious, lesser angel, just amazed by God's new creation, especially humans.
Right.
He appeals to Uriel's own goodness, that thirst for knowledge angels have, asking these seemingly earnest questions. Tell me, how may I find him? It's all a calculated performance.
So he can gather intel without showing his real intentions.
Exactly. It really highlights how easily even the virtuous can be fooled by a convincing mask.
Which brings us neatly to Book 3 and that shift in perspective. I get a glimpse into heaven and God's foreknowledge of the fall. Now, that's a tricky concept, isn't it? God knowing what will happen, but still giving free will.
Oh, it's a huge theological knot. Milton really tackles it head on.
How does he handle it?
He asserts that God's foreknowledge doesn't equal predestination. God sees all the possibilities, yeah, but humans still have the agency, the freedom to make their own choices.
So God knows, but doesn't cause it.
That's the idea. God says something like, they themselves decreed their own revolt, not I. The emphasis is squarely on the freely chosen act of disobedience. Humanity is responsible, even though God saw it coming.
Okay. And within that divine view, we also get that incredible moment.
Yeah.
The Son offering to atone for humanity's future sin.
A profoundly moving moment. Yeah. It shows divine love, divine mercy in action.
How so?
Well, seeing what's about to happen, the Son steps forward, an act of ultimate self-sacrifice. Behold me then, me for him, life for life I offer. Right. That willingness to take the hit for human sin, it just underscores the depth of divine love. And it sets up the whole possibility of redemption even before the fall actually happens. It's pivotal. Shows God isn't just about judgment.
Okay, so let's shift scenes again. We arrive in paradise itself, Eden, and Milton's descriptions. They're just incredibly lush, aren't they?
Oh, stunningly beautiful. He paints this picture of unspoiled perfection. Sensory overload, almost.
The abundance, the innocence of Adam and Eve. It sounds idyllic.
Totally. He talks about the blissful bower, fruits and flowers always blooming, the air filled with vernal delight and joy. He goes into detail about the plants, the animals, emphasizing the harmony, the sheer abundance of it all.
Which makes the loss even more tragic, of course.
Exactly. You have to see what was lost to feel the weight of it.
And in the middle of all this perfection, there's that one rule. The one restriction, the tree of knowledge.
A single prohibition.
God gives a clear command, don't eat the fruit, and spells out the consequences. Death. What's the point of that single restriction surrounded by all this freedom?
Well, it functions as a test, doesn't it? A test of obedience, a defined boundary within their otherwise limitless freedom. It sort of underscores the idea that even in perfect liberty, maybe there's a need for humility. Acceptance of divine authority, that warning God hath pronounced it death to taste that tree, it sets the stakes. It frames the whole central conflict.
It suggests that real freedom isn't just doing whatever you want, but involves responsible choices within certain boundaries.
Precisely, within moral parameters.
Then, inevitably, Satan makes his move. He infiltrates paradise.
Slips past Uriel's watch.
And we see him observing Adam and Eve, watching their bond, and then making that calculated decision to target Eve. Why Eve?
What does that tell us?
Well, it seems like a strategic choice, doesn't it? He observes their love, but maybe he perceives in Eve, I don't know, a greater curiosity. Or perhaps he thinks she might be swayed by different arguments than Adam.
Interesting.
It's a calculated move. He's trying to exploit what he sees as a potential vulnerability. It shows his keen, albeit malicious, insight into psychology. Human or maybe just created being psychology. And then we get to it, the absolute core scene. The temptation. Satan, disguised as a serpent, talking Eve into eating the forbidden fruit.
It's a masterclass in deception.
His arguments are so cunning, aren't they?
Yeah.
Promising godlike knowledge, equality with God.
Exactly. What makes it so persuasive, he taps into some deep desires, I think.
Like what?
He skillfully twists God's command, suggests it comes from jealousy, not love, invented with design to keep them low, you know? He plays on Eve's desire for more wisdom, for recognition. He flatters her.
Plants those seeds of doubt about God's motive.
Totally, and he reframes disobedience, makes it sound like the path to enlightenment, to empowerment. He's preying on that inherent human curiosity, that desire for self-improvement, just twisting it.
And Eve buys it, she eats the fruit, and then crucially she gets Adam to do it too.
Yeah, that second part is just as important.
Why does Adam go along with it? It seems driven by desire, maybe this idea of a shared fate, but it also feels like flawed reasoning on his part.
Well, Eve's decision seems complex. Ambition, belief in Satan's lies. When she convinces Adam, she really leans on their bond, doesn't she? The fear of being separated. Equal lot, equal joy, equal love, equal danger.
Right. Stay together no matter what.
And Adam's choice. While maybe you can say it's motivated by love, wanting to stay with Eve, it's still a conscious choice to disobey God's direct command. He says, so forcible within my heart, I feel the bond of nature draw me to my own.
He prioritizes their relationship over obedience to God.
Seems that way, yeah. A deeply human, arguably flawed decision.
The consequences hit immediately, don't they? Milton describes that newfound shame, the break in their relationship, the start of discord where there was only harmony.
It's dramatic and deeply personal. The shift is instant. The loss of innocence is just. You feel it. They suddenly notice they're naked, feel guilty shame.
And the fighting starts.
Yeah, their perfect unity is gone. Replaced by anger, hate, mistrust, suspicion, discord. The harmony within themselves and between each other, it's shattered, mirroring that broken relationship with God.
Then comes the judgment. God lays it all out. The consequences for Adam, Eve, Satan. The curses, pain, labor, death. It's pretty stark.
It really emphasizes the gravity of what they did, and it sets the stage for, well, all of human existence afterwards. Each gets a specific burden. The serpent's cursed, Eve gets pain in childbirth and subordination, Adam has to toil on cursed ground.
And death becomes real.
Right. The loss of their immortal state. That's the ultimate consequence.
Then there's that more allegorical bit, right?
Yeah.
Sin and death showing up and heading to earth.
Yeah, born from Satan's rebellion. Their journey to earth is like a physical manifestation of evil being unleashed.
What's the significance of personifying them like that?
It's a powerful way to show the pervasive, lasting consequences of that first sin.
Yeah.
They symbolize the corruption, the mortality that will now plague humanity and the world. Their arrival means evil's influence is spreading, breaking out of hell.
Amidst all this cosmic drama, we also see Adam and Eve reacting in very human ways. Their sadness, their despair, and maybe inevitably the blame game starts.
Oh, absolutely. Milton portrays that struggle with guilt and responsibility so relatably. Their laments are really poignant. They're grieving what they lost.
Adam questions why he was even created.
Right. Laments how fleeting their joy was. And Eve, while she admits her part, she also tries to shift some blame to the serpent.
That discord again.
Exactly. It highlights their struggle to just cope with their shared responsibility, the psychological weight of it all.
But the epic doesn't just end in despair, does it? There's that promise of redemption, the foreshadowing of the second Adam.
Crucial point.
Yeah.
Even with the judgment and expulsion, Milton weaves in this thread of hope.
What hope does that offer?
Well, through the prophecy of this second Adam, who Christians interpret as Christ, there's the promise of future reconciliation, a way to overcome the consequences of the original sin. It adds this whole redemptive arc to the larger story. The fall isn't the absolute end.
And finally, the expulsion itself. Leaving paradise. It's full of loss, obviously, but the ending has a sense of, maybe not triumph, but resilience. A future, even if it's outside Eden.
Definitely. The expulsion is incredibly sad. They're weeping. But those final lines, they hand in hand with wandering steps and slow, through Eden took their solitary way, but guided by providence.
Ah, providence.
That subtle detail hints that the relationship with the divine isn't totally severed. It's changed, it's harder, but there's still guidance. There's potential for restoration eventually, even out in the world.
So wrapping up this deep dive into Paradise Lost, we've really hit on these huge timeless themes, haven't we?
Yeah.
Ambition, obedience, temptation, consequences, loss, and that potential for redemption.
It's all in there. It's a work that just keeps provoking thought, discussion about the absolute core of the human experience.
Yeah, it really does.
And I think Paradise Lost stays relevant because it keeps asking these fundamental questions. about our nature, our relationship with authority, why forbidden knowledge is so alluring, and that enduring hope for forgiveness, for renewal. It really invites us to think about our own choices,
Yeah,
doesn't it? And their impact.
absolutely. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. Considering all these complexities we've touched on, free will, divine intervention in Paradise Lost, what do you find most compelling, or maybe most challenging, about how we make choices and deal with the consequences?
Or even taking it beyond the specific religious context.
Yeah.
How do those big themes like temptation or chasing forbidden knowledge, how do they still play out today in our modern world, based on what we've kind of unpacked here?
Lots to think about. Definitely questions Milton leaves us chewing on. Maybe it's worth revisiting Paradise Lost or parts of it with some of this in mind. See what new connections jump out.
Great idea.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive.